This is Resusci Anne, the first CPR training mannequin. The line "Annie, are you okay?" from Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal was inspired by trainees learning to say it while practicing resuscitation on her. Modern CPR with chest compressions and mouth-to-mouth is actually a relatively new thing. Back before 1950, resuscitation techniques were super varied and sometimes bizarre. Back in the Middle Ages, you might use flagellation with stinging nettles to try to resuscitate the dead. Back in the Middle Ages, you had a bellows method to force hot air into the lungs or other places. 1700s had a barrel method where you roll an unconscious person on a barrel. There was a horse trot method where you put them on a horse and jostle them around a little bit. The Marshall method of 1856 was to lie a victim on the ground prone and then roll them over to their side 16 times a minute. Finally, in 1946, the efficacy of mouth-to-mouth was accidentally rediscovered by James Elam, the physician. He used it to successfully resuscitate some of his patients whose iron lung failed. Then he met and went on to do some crazy experiments with another physician, Peter Safar. They sedated and paralyzed volunteers and tried the old methods with the hand flapping and stuff. Then they gave completely untrained people a 15 to 20 second crash course in the new CPR and let them do their thing and recorded the success of the different methods. The volunteers were hooked up to monitoring equipment to watch their oxygen levels. You could watch their oxygen levels go down to dangerous levels and then watch it climb back up when they were given mouth to mouth. In a famous session at Walter Reed Hospital, they had a fire chief come in and do the old method to no avail, and then they had an 11-year-old boy come in and bring him back with mouth to mouth. It was a hard sell to physicians and medical personnel, but they sold it well, and Safar is known as the father of CPR today. Then a Norwegian toy maker, Asmund Lerdahl, came up with an early version of Resusci Anne. He decided to use a woman's face because he thought that male trainees might be reluctant to kiss a man's face. The face itself was already quite famous as it was based on the death mask of an unknown drowned woman. It was called the L'Inconnue de la Seine, or the Unknown Woman of the Seine. As the story goes, she was pulled out of the River Seine in Paris in the late 1880s. The mold was copied thousands of times and you could find them all over Parisian bohemian society. Lerdahl saw it in his in-laws' house as he was planning his design and decided that that was going to be the face of his CPR doll. And he presented it at a conference with Elam and Safar at attendance in 1960, and then together they all worked on new versions.